Coach, give us just your overall thoughts on the start to the year and how you guys think you're playing here in the early going. Still, obviously, a lot of baseball left talking here in the last day of February.
Yeah, it's early. February is still really early for me to be thinking about playing baseball and having a number of games under our belt right now. But probably the biggest word you can think of is inconsistency. So we've been up and down. We'll see flashes of being pretty good offensively, and then we'll see flashes of being pretty anemic. So, and then pitching wise, really been kind of the same way. We've been pretty solid defensively, but Northwest Missouri, the natural field, kind of got us just a little bit up at Maryville. So we didn't play very good defense up at Maryville. So, like I said, I think it's a work in progress, and probably will be for another 2 or 3 weeks before we really kind of know who we are, what we're going to be. But I would say right now the big word is inconsistency.
Well, given that inconsistency, how pleased were you with you guys being able to overcome a game one deficit and come back and win that series against the Bearcats?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that was big, and you take out really the first inning, we actually have a really good shot at sweeping that series, but that's not the way baseball works. So we have one bad inning, and that's usually what will get you in the end. But the guys they responded well coming back the next 2 days, and then had to hang on for dear life in game 3. But again, we were able to do that, so that's a credit to our kids and for them hanging in there.
Well, final thing, your first Turnpike Tussle as a coach at least. How excited are you to get this rivalry going here in your first year?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's obviously when I played, it was a big deal. So, going and playing up there, or them coming down here, it seems like it'll be interesting this year. What I'm used to is there's like a football team that's usually going to be out there giving the other team a lot of heck and making it hard on them from a focus standpoint. I'm not sure that's going to happen, this weekend. But those are the days that I remember is football team would come out on either side, or basketball teams, and they had a heck of a time and created havoc for the opposing team. But obviously, Harley's done a great job there, and they're playing good baseball. Top 4 in the preseason. Had 2 kids with big arms in the conference last year with the draft, and offensively, like I said, they have a solid club.
Vince.
There we go. Hey, Coach, baseball obviously is a very big mental game. I was a former player myself, and what you talked about, the big word is inconsistency right now. How do you kind of just build upon that, meaning where you maybe try to get rid of the mental errors and just try to continue to build that morale within the club, especially your first year in Emporia? How do you kind of do that as a coaching staff and also with the players at the same time?
Well, I think a lot of it's through your practice reps. You're trying to put them in situations to where they're being challenged, but at the same time, you're trying to have them, experience success inside of practice. So we'll set up some drills to where hopefully they're getting positive repetitions, and then we hope that transpires. And then we've been talking a lot about, the mental game of, putting positive images back into your mind. We've had some kids that have had some really nice games for us that maybe haven't had here recently. So you try to get them to go back and reflect when they were positive. What did that, we've had a couple kids really, hit the ball, had a home run to center field. What did that feel like? What do you remember happened with your body, and seeing that positive image and having them just take a little bit of time at night before they go to sleep and trying to relive some of those things. And that's the stuff you talk about. I mean, again, it still has to happen on the field, but you're trying to get them as many positive reps as you can, trying to get the muscle memory going, and then hopefully that translates into, the mental side of things.
One thing I did ask Coach Harley yesterday is about, right, this is spring training where you guys can watch, some of these major leaguers as well and kind of maybe take some tips. Do all the big guys play, not necessarily or all the time in spring training, but do you talk to your guys about that, maybe to watch some of what they're doing, especially when, they're kind of in the same process as you getting ready for the season?
Yeah, I think, again, it depends on who you're watching, number one. So, I mean, we don't have Aaron Judge. We don't have 6'8", 280 sitting over here that's going to lift the ball out of the ballpark. So, I think you got to pick and choose who you're going to watch. And I think that's a big part of it. So many kids, all they see are the home runs. And so kids think, oh, I'll just go hit home runs. Well, that's not necessarily who we are and who we need to be from an offensive standpoint. So I think you got to kind of pick and choose. But as far as development of our team and guys going through maybe some growing pains right now, still trying to find themselves, particularly from an offensive standpoint, I think you can kind of watch. It's just a matter of who you're watching. know that those guys are being paid millions. To go ahead and strike out is okay as long as you hit 30 home runs. That's not okay for me. So, we don't quite have that. So it depends on who you're going to watch.
And one last thing, Coach. Again, Blake kind of asked you about the tussle, and you know what it's like. Have you talked to your players about what this means? Every sport's a little different. Have you talked to your players about what this rivalry means if some players don't know what it is yet?
Yeah, I think, again, it's something you're going to talk about a little bit today. Yesterday was a light of practice with the weather change. We went indoors, and so we didn't talk a lot about it because we worked out in small groups yesterday. But today we'll talk a little bit more about it as we're out there as a team. And again, it's important, and I know it's important for all the former Hornets out there, but at the same time, it's not going to make or break our season. If we don't have a very successful weekend, there's a lot of baseball left to be played. But at the same time, we do want to remind them that it's kind of like KU K-State. Everybody's like, hey, if you're going to beat anybody, just beat KU. If you're going to beat anybody, just beat K-State. That's kind of a big deal for people. So we'll mention it, but at the same time, I also want to think that this is going to make or break our season.
That's all I got, Coach. Really appreciate your time.
You bet.
Landon?
Coach, one last Turnpike Tussle question, I promise, and then you can wait another month. Kind of following up on your last point, I remember Coach Doty with the men's basketball team gave us, but when he first got hired, he said he walked into a gas station and someone said, "Oh, you're the new basketball coach. Just make sure you beat the team up the road." Do you have any moments like that?
Yeah, I can tell some stories because they were a long time ago, and there's a lot of stories. But I remember we went to Washburn and back when I played, a long time ago. It was one of those things where, again, you didn't want to get beat by Washburn. We went up there and we actually got swept. I can't remember what it was, 83, something like that. But and I actually made the last out of the game. I hit a fly ball, the warning track, home run would at least put us ahead. Don't know if we would have won. But, that was back in the day where we got to line up. They dumped the bucket of water on Coach Hansen, and we proceeded to run in the outfield for an hour and a half after that game. And Coach Hansen just enjoyed it. He sat in the stands and got to watch and enjoyed it. So we have stories like that we can bring up. And the football team was behind our bench the whole time and saying really nice things to us. So there's things like that you do remember. But like I said, we're back, and I coached against Coach Douglas. He was at Washburn when I was at Central Missouri. Connor Crimmins was on my staff at Kansas State, so we also have some connections there that way. So it'll be interesting. Connor says it's going to be fun lining up and competing against us, and I'm sure we're going to have a little bit. You want some bragging rights? There's no question.